fellow leaders, welcome to today's Military Writing Smarter in 6 segment, accurately summarizing, coming at you from the Military Writing Command Center. Whether you're completing an MLC essay assignment or you're answering a question on an ILE exam, you'll need to summarize readings and other complex information, so this is a vital skill to have no matter what. There are some key things that you must include every time, and I'm excited to show you the strategies to do that successfully. Let's dig in! Summarizing is taking an original work and using your own words to briefly explain it. When will you need to summarize a text? Well, almost every time you discuss a reading in your military classes, you are likely to hear your instructor ask, "So what was this about? What was the general idea?" If you can go into your classes already having thought about your reading in terms of a simple summary, you'll totally be a step ahead. But even more importantly, when you write about any text or source in your essays, you will likely present your reader with a brief summary of that piece before you progress into your specific analysis. When we summarize, there are some definite do's and don'ts. Do mention the main ideas and conclusion that the original author discussed. Don't get bogged down in details or try to include everything. Do be sure to note the complexities of the argument if there are some. Don't provide textual evidence from your source within the summary. Do include the author's name, where and when the piece was published, and any crucial information about the author, like his or her title or position. So what specific steps can you take to create a summary? How can you get started? Before you actually write, it is super smart to go through the article that we're summarizing and look over the paragraphs to make sure we know what was discussed throughout the article. We've got the whole thing in front of us now in manageable chunks. So knowing I can't have a 14-sentence summary, what do I do next? The number one piece of advice I have always given my students is this. Imagine you are explaining this piece to your family member, roommate, or friend. This person doesn't know much about the issue and certainly hasn't read the article. You don't have to write or think in fancy terms, just write like you would speak to this person, and only give them the 1-minute overview of what you read about. If you oversimplify an author's argument, it can make you look uninformed and unable to distinguish the vital pieces of an author's work. Let me give you an example of how students get tripped up and then really lose credibility, especially when the instructor has already read the materials and knows what key ideas should be making an appearance in the summary. I became fascinated with what was going on at Harvard during the 2021-22 academic year, when a professor there had quite a while ago been accused of sexual harassment by multiple students. In 2022, many world-renowned Harvard professors signed a public letter of concern over how the university was handling the accusations, basically implying that the professor in question had been unfairly placed on administrative leave, and criticizing the decision found by the Title IX process. It gets very messy and problematic when the system that is supposed to protect its students from power imbalances comes under attack by the very same scholars who teach and grade those protected students. The editorial board of the student newspaper, the Harvard Crimson, published an article in February of 2022 titled, "We Are Not a Title IX Substitute." And while this piece provided an overview of the sexual harassment allegations and offered support for those students who have endured this highly inappropriate behavior from faculty members, that wasn't the author's main point. The editorial board instead focused on how infuriating it was that one of the alleged victims was told by a Title IX authority at Harvard that the case would only gain traction if the victim spoke out to the press, which would put pressure on the university to take more serious action. What I unfortunately would be likely to see if I asked college students to summarize this article, because I have, is that many students would focus almost entirely on the author's support for the victims in the sexual harassment case. However, a summary of this piece would be highly lacking if it only included this outrage and the author's support for the students who endured the seemingly biased arbitration of the case. The actual main point of the piece is that the necessary investigation and attention to the situation belong to Harvard's arbitration system, not the press. Do you see what I mean? Don't oversimplify the summary and gravitate toward what you personally found most interesting or worth mentioning. We're always thinking, what main points were brought up in this piece? Unless the entire article was about showing support to the victims, then the summary should include more than just this one idea. I'm going to show you the summary that I've written for this article, though I know it's not ideal to zip through it because of my video's time limitation. I want you to be able to read the full summary, so don't worry if you can't catch it at first glance. I've added it to the video description below. Notice that I've included the name of the newspaper, the title of the article, the date when it was published, and the author's names, which in this case isn't a list of actual names, but is the editorial board for this newspaper. I've provided the essential meat of the author's argument, demonstrating the main points they made in their op-ed. And I included one sentence that provided background information that a reader would need in order to quickly get up to speed with the circumstances that the authors were commenting on. Especially when you're writing a summary of a piece because you're crafting a full essay about it, you need to be sure to have an accurate account of what the piece was about. Otherwise, you'll be starting out on the wrong foot with your instructor, who will already think you have no idea what you're talking about. If you couldn't get the summary right, how can you be trusted to correctly analyze other aspects about it? And if you take the time to consider each paragraph or section of the original text, you will ensure that you don't overlook a crucial aspect of the author's argument. I hope this Smarter in 6 segment really resonated with you. Now you understand how to create summaries that are thorough but concise, and how to avoid the common issues that leaders struggle with when summarizing. You know I'm here for you, and I'm excited to guide you toward becoming a more confident, capable writer. Like and subscribe down below so I can keep providing you with helpful writing guidance. And until next time, I got your 6.